Well, we are joined by three North Texas Democrats, Lou Blackburn, Haley Taylor Schlitz, and Jody Bland. You are all part of the Grassroots. You're active in politics. And so I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this historic day? Historic for two reasons: a new president and also the first female and Black vice president of the United States. Whoever would like to go first. Haley, we'll start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, obviously, this is a very exciting day. It's historic. All of the Divine Nine, I'm Sigma Gamma Rho. Kamala Harris is obviously Alpha Kappa Alpha. We're all celebrating her. We're very happy that she's in this position. But as a Generation Z, we take this as an opportunity to finally face the challenge of changing the image of America. Especially after what's happened over the last 4 years. It's going to take some work, but this is a fantastic step in the right direction, and it's a celebration for everybody.
Jody?
Yeah, you mentioned it's a historic day for the Black American community. It's a historic day for the Asian American community as well, as Senator Harris, soon to be Vice President Harris, first time I've said that, sounds great, is going to represent a whole demographic of our country that is often not well represented in politics. And as Haley said, it's very exciting to see the face of politics change. And we're going to get to see that here in a little bit this morning.
And Lou?
Well, I think it's about time that we are on the road to healing, the road to making America feel more at ease with each other. As my bow tie, I wear blue and red. But I think we all need to come together as Republicans and Democrats to do what's best for the United States. And I think that's what Joe Biden would bring and Kamala Harris would bring along with him.
One person we won't be seeing today at the inauguration is President Trump. Your thoughts on that?
My response, and I think I can speak for all of Generation Z, when we say we don't care. He doesn't have to be there. This is a moment that everybody's celebrating. It's a historic moment, It'll go down in history as something that changed the trajectory of America, our image, how we have influence on other countries, our standing in society. I don't think anybody cares if he's there or not. He doesn't need to be there for life to move forward.
I think today is about looking forward, and I think today is about a new Democratic administration reminding Americans what it's like to work together towards shared common goals, instead of hearkening back to other days, trying to tear us apart. And I think that's what you're going to hear from President Biden. I think that's what you're going to hear from Vice President Harris. We're in this together. We're in a moment of crisis in the country, and it's time to look forward. It's time to look forward to better days, and I couldn't be more excited about it myself.
It's a shame that we can't continue some traditions, some sense of diplomacy, whereby you change the leadership power from one hand to the other. In a way, it's like being on the playground. I'm going to pick up my marbles and I'm going home. And that's exactly what Trump did today.
In Washington, as we all know, there are 25,000 National Guard troops to make sure that everyone remains safe. What does everybody think about all that?
It's a shame that we're in this position. It's a shame that the National Guard had to be called out because of the sedition and insurrection this last week and the way that the former president has handled the entire last 3 months and frankly, the entire 4 years of his presidency. So, I mean, I'll say it again, it's just an absolute shame that we're in this position because of President Trump.
Yeah, I agree. Just to build off what he said, I think that it's necessary and it's the least they could do, especially after what happened last week. It really is the least they could do to make sure that this goes smoothly and everybody stays safe.
Yeah, the president, I guess he's still president. He started building up on this 4 years ago to this day. 4 years ago, he started building up to the insurrection that happened on just 2 weeks ago, on the same steps where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to take the oath of office. It is about time that we move past that type of divisive environment, but it's a very sad occasion where we have to have 25,000 guards against ourselves, against our own people, not against another foreign nation, but against our own people that were instigated by our own president.
All three of you have talked about the need for the nation to come together and heal. And one of the things that we're looking toward happening after the inauguration and the next, depending on when Speaker Pelosi sends the article of impeachment to the Senate, is a trial. And I'm wondering, how concerned are you that a Senate trial impeaching President Trump, former President Trump, what kind of negative impact might that have on the first 100 days of the Biden administration? And is that a concern?
I think President Biden needs to get started with his agenda and not wait to see what the Senate is going to do. I think the Senate is doing the right thing, because at some point you have to hold the president accountable for what he did and what he caused 2 weeks ago. So in that sense, I think that the Senate needs to move forward with the impeachment, but I also think that President Biden and Vice President Harris need to go on with their agenda to start to heal America.
I think from a Generation Z point of view, that's what's necessary, that's what's needed, and that's what we expect. Letting go of the past, kind of like what Jody was saying earlier about not letting yourself get hold up, not looking backward, but moving forward. I think that that's something that Generation Z has grown up seeing. And that's the expectation, after today, for the new administration to move forward and let go of what happened.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Lou that it's very important for the Biden administration to set the tone on day one with what their policy agenda is going to be and what their priorities will be going forward. But we can't forget what President Trump and those others that aided and abetted him have done. And if history has taught us anything, it's that those who engage in acts such as those that led up to January 6th must be punished, or they will come back. So I think that, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to strike a balance between actually punishing those for the crimes that have been committed, but also moving America forward.
And let me ask, because President-elect Biden sent out a release saying some of the items that he is going to include in his day one executive actions. They include launching a 100-day masking challenge, a unified national response to the COVID-19 pandemic, extending the eviction and foreclosure moratorium, rejoin the Paris Accord Agreement, and reverse the travel ban and stop border wall construction. And I just wanted to get a sense from everybody here what they think of these day one executive actions. Jody, let's start with you this time.
I think the day one executive actions are going to get a lot of discussion, needfully so, because they're reversals of failed policies of the Trump administration. And President Biden has the authority to immediately reverse these actions that were made by executive authority under Trump as well. So it's a great start. I would also include within these day one executive actions the ambitious and progressive economic policy proposal that the Biden administration is laying out in terms of COVID relief. It's the singular most progressive piece of economic legislation seen in my lifetime. And I hope that theme continues, including the Fight for 15 in that legislation is huge. Including issues that are very important to underserved communities is very important. And I think Biden is setting a progressive tone on day one, reversing some of Trump's failed policies, but also focusing on what he wants to do.
Lou.
Well, I think that by focusing on the COVID-19 economic plan, I think that will bring about a recovery. And it's ironic that when Barack Obama started as president, he also had to endure an economic depression at that time. So I think that President Biden will have the experience to know what needs to be done to help America come back financially. And I think that includes helping the small business people, because they are the ones who hire the most number of people in the United States. So as we help our small businesses, then the overall economy will start to grow. We need to go back and help those who need the help the most.
Haley.
I agree. Building off what they said, as a law student, echoing what Jody said, I do think that this is going to encourage a lot of discussion, necessary discussion, good discussion, intellectual discussion. So I'm excited to see that, to hear that, to learn about it. And then as a Gen Zer, I think that I think we are excited. We're the most diverse generation that America's ever seen. To be able to witness a step in the right direction of bringing people together and being able to move forward together, it's going to be exciting to witness. Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you about the chambers, the houses of Congress. You've got the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House has, I think, a 10-seat majority for the Democrats over the Republicans, so a very narrow margin for the majority. And then at the Senate, it's 50-50, with the new vice president being the one who will, vote to break the tie. And so I'm wondering what kind of challenges you think that's going to pose for the new president.
I think that the structure of our government right now is reflecting what America looks like. I've watched documentaries and seen videos where people are like, this is not how America is. This is not who we are. And the response is, no, this is always who we've been. You're just being exposed to it. You're just being seen. And I think that in some ways that can be accurate. We're very split. We saw the turnout for voters. It was very close. I think that the way that our government looks in Congress and Senate is accurately a picture of what America looks like. And it's good to have diverse opinions. But I do think that majority that we have, or that 50-50 split with Vice President Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker, will be very exciting to watch, because I think it'll be an improvement from what we've seen. So in any case, it's only going up.
Lou.
Well, I'm hopeful that we don't get to the point or stay at the point where it's all about Republicans versus Democrats. I hope we can get to the point where Democrats will reach across the aisle to work with the Republicans across the aisle, so that we can work for the good of the country. I think we've seen over the past 4 years that when we stick to just doing something Republican, just because Trump is a Republican, we're going to go along with him. We see the type of divisive environment that we have right now. So I think now is the time for someone like Joe Biden, who is much like your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your grandpa. Is somebody that will sit down with you and listen to all sides of the story, all sides of the issue, so we come up with a decision, a resolution that'll be good for most everybody, and not just a narrow split vote.
And Jody.
Given the slight majority in the House and the equal divide in the Senate, whether or not certain progressives like it or not, Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, Mitt Romney, moderate members of the United States Senate are going to carry a lot of power for the next 2 years. And if we want to pass progressive legislation, we need to find a way, as Lou says, to work with those people, to find a way to build a coalition that works for all Americans, that works for those of us that we want to focus on, and get the job done.
And my last question to each of you is, what would you like to see accomplished in this new administration?
I'll go first if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think we need to focus on the COVID pandemic. We need to find ways to get the vaccines out to more people quicker. I think Joe Biden's plans to do 100 million over the next 100 days, I think it's ambitious. I think it's a bold, ambitious task, but the idea of having that goal, I think is going to be good. And second of all, I think is working on the economy. We have got to get people back to work, get to a sense of normalcy. And that would come about getting the vaccine to more arms, and then getting more small business and other business back to work.
Haley?
I think going into this new administration, my hopes are big picture. seeing justice and equality, of course, seeing equal opportunity for people, housing to get that up, employment and the economy, like Lou said, getting that restored, the image of America, like I mentioned earlier. Hopefully we can get that back into a positive light, especially after the last 4 years. It's going to be a recovery, a process, but I'm hoping to see that. I think that's one of the biggest things I'm hoping to see is America restoring its reputation of being the land of the free, and being welcoming, a mixing pot. I'm hoping to see that restored.
And Jody.
In particular, I believe what I would like to see kind of take place throughout the Biden administration really falls into two phases or two buckets. As Lou hints on, disentangling an economic recovery and a recovery from the COVID crisis is near impossible. And I think we've had a lot of misguided efforts to try to stimulate the economy without focusing on what's dragging down the economy. So once we are able to push through this COVID crisis together and get the economy back in the right direction, I'm really excited and I'm really hopeful that the Biden administration will focus on further progressive issues such as debt-free college. I think focusing on issues and protections for workers and consumers against growing concentrations of corporate power is essential for the next 4 years, lest we look up and it's 2024 and big tech controls more than they control now, which is a bit of a horrifying thought. And then lastly, I don't think that we can avoid the big picture policy issue of healthcare. And I'm excited and believe that the Biden administration will be able to have reasonable conversations and start moving our country towards having a real viable potential public option that we can use to migrate and move towards a more holistic healthcare system. So I would say 3 particular issues: education, debt-free college, worker protections, and healthcare would be things that I would hope the administration will focus on.
Is there anything that I did not ask anybody about who would like to add a few other words? All right, well, thank you so much to Jody Bland, Haley Taylor Schlitz, and Lou Blackburn. Really appreciate your thoughts and great talking with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.